Hey, we're back. This is John.
It's Paul.
And it's Eric.
And it's What If Geeks. And Happy New Year, you
Hey.
fuckers. We took the Christmas break off, so we're finally back. Yay. We took it off so hard that I didn't even post anything, so so freaking busy running around. But yeah, so we didn't post anything, but now we're back and we're gonna kick it off in a good fashion with review of chapter 1 of the book of Boba Fett, Stranger in a Strange Land. So first of all, how was everybody's Christmas?
Awesome.
Good.
Yeah, good. We ended up stayed here for Christmas. We like the kids to wake up in their beds on Christmas morning, but then day after drove to North Carolina and met wife's half of the family at a house rental and outside of Asheville. So yeah, got to hang out and didn't have to work, which was nice. And no one in the company worked. So it's one of the, like, I didn't have to check emails. And so, like, is it Monday? What day is it? Is it Tuesday? Is it Wednesday? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, we did Christmas Eve here like we do every year. And when Eric came over, we all hung out for a little bit. Then Christmas Day here, and we just kind of chilled out. And New Year's Eve, we just kind of did here, just us, not doing anything special. But I worked through the little week shutdown that we had, just because I saved my time for different vacations throughout the year. So as my time builds up more, I'll probably take more, I'll take Christmas and my vacations. But right now I'm still building up a bunch of hours. So, and Heather's got like multiple different little trips and crap planned. We're doing a cruise in May, and we're doing a Tennessee trip in March, I think. I don't know. So yeah. Eric, how about you?
Other than coming to your house, did nothing pretty much. On a very, very rare instance, I took a couple days before Christmas all the way to New Year's off, and I only worked like 2 days in that whole time period. So
Nice.
Super rare for me to not do some work on vacation, but I did, and it was nice, and I didn't want to go back.
Yeah, I worked it and still didn't want to go back.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So for those of you who have missed us, all 5 or 6 of you, we're back here with the Book of Boba Fett. Like we said, we were looking forward to this big time. Like we said, they didn't even have to give us a trailer. That little teaser at the end of last Mandalorian episode was just enough for us. So that was the last time we saw him, was when he kicks Bib Fortuna's fat carcass off of Jabba's throne and takes it over. So Eric, you want to walk us through some of the details real quick?
Sure. Let me start with something that I didn't put in here that I just thought was interesting. The title of this episode is Stranger in a Strange Land, as you mentioned. Not sure if you guys are familiar, but that's actually the title of a 1960s like sci-fi novel. It's about a guy that grew up on Mars in like a different culture and then comes back to Earth and pretty much changes the culture of Earth as he's learning to adapt to it. So may have some meaning in what this series is going to be about and how they're going to develop the Boba Fett backstory. But also, it is an excerpt from the King James Bible and Exodus. So could have a completely different meaning. Who knows? I'm kind of interested to see where they take it, or if that was just, sort of random happenstance that they named it that, right? I mean, it has a meaning even if you don't know either of those things, right?
Yeah, and I don't think anything is happenstance when it comes to Star Wars and.
Well, I don't either. Yeah, and not that we're going to talk about it today, but if you watch episode 2, it feels very much like he is from another culture and influencing ones where he's at. And so that's all I'll say, not to spoil anything. But so this is a spin-off of the Mandalorian series. Of course, Boba Fett appeared in Mando season 2, and this series is focused on events after that. Spoiler alert, if you watched Mando at all, somebody picks up Fennec Shand after Mando knocks her down, right? and she is with Boba Fett from the very beginning of this episode, as you saw in the post-credits trailer for this show. So there are 7 episodes planned for this season. Robert Rodriguez directs this episode. However, it is confirmed that Dave Filoni is directing one. Since John and I have watched episode 2 at this point as well, Steph Green does direct that episode, and she did like the Watchmen movie and a couple episodes of Luke Cage series. Bryce Dallas Howard is confirmed to be a director. Kevin I'm going to say his name wrong, but Kevin Tanchorin, I think it is, for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., is also directing one. And then Tamira Morrison suggested in an interview, although it's not confirmed by any other source, that Jon Favreau is directing one. And then there was an online rumor running around like 6 months ago that Sam Hargrave, who directed Extraction, might also be doing an episode. I mean, that'd be a director for everyone, but I guess we'll see what happens. So Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are producing this, so they have obviously creative input into everything, and it makes total sense. And as we go along, I'm sure you'll see some of that. Jon Favreau is also credited as the creator and writer for most of the episodes. We have Ludwig Göransson, who did the Mandalorian scores, doing some of the music in this, but not all. And if you were paying attention to the soundtrack, you might have noticed a difference between like the theme music and some of the stuff you got in the episode. It feels very different. But Tamara Morrison as Boba Fett, Ming-Na Wen as Fennec Shan. Those are returns from Mando. We have Matt Berry, who is a British comedian who does the 88 voice, which is, Jabba's torture droid, now one of Boba Fett's peons, I guess. And then Jennifer Beals, I noticed, and anybody that watches any or has watched any 80s stuff like Flashdance probably recognize her face. Not that that's the only thing she's been in, but she'll also appear in some future episodes besides this one. I think that's most of the relevant deets, right? Any let's do no spoiler. Any thoughts going into this about how it was going to go, how excited you were, what you thought from the trailers or the Mando closing in credit scene about this?
So I think John already said, we were super excited once that happened. It was like, holy cow, start this today.
Yeah.
I think I got the feeling, and I don't know that this even gets spoiled, but you get the sense just from the closing credits of The Mandalorian that this is going to be sort of a crime drama set in the Star Wars universe. And I think at some point in the last year or so, we said, I think it was around the discussion of the new books, the sort of 1,000 years ago prequels that are coming out in book form and whatever. There's so much in the Star Wars universe you can do, and you can do, right? The Mandalorian is kind of a Western along the lines of, it's a Western / samurai, right?
Yep.
Movie takeoff, homage to those things. So this is more in the Godfather, right? Casino sort of genre. You can do any of those kind of genre things set in the Star Wars universe, and I think that's really cool. And I think that, thank goodness that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are such Star Wars fans that they get to play with these toys, right? And we get to see it. So they can just take a cool story and a cool idea and just go develop it.
Yeah, I agree. Like we said, we look forward to it right after that end credit scene, and yeah, I was very excited for it. And like Paul said, you can do so many different stories within Star Wars. One of the reasons why I was a little irritated that they had canceled that animated Star Wars Detours, because I thought that was going to be really funny. But who knows? Maybe eventually they'll greenlight something like that. Because there's room for that too. An animated comedy sketch show, that there's a lot of room for that. Especially when it's done with love and reverence like Seth Green does a lot of the stuff, it's good. So we'll see. But this, yeah, I was totally looking forward to this. And yeah, all right, Eric.
Yeah, so I would say of all the characters in Star Wars, uh, let's say canon Star Wars, right? Boba Fett is one of the most sort of iconic and loved characters, and he has no fucking backstory, like none, zero. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? At least in canon. Again, I'm gonna say in canon, but there has been literally millions of words written about him in the extended universe, the non-canon stuff. Um, I mean, far-reaching stories, even in obscure shit like the Star Wars RPG stuff that went on like 15 years ago. They wrote a bunch of stories about him. They were in the magazines that had like little side stories for the RPG games. Like that's how extensive it went. Like people love this guy, right? It's crazy. And to be fair, even the all that extended universe stuff doesn't even coincide. It doesn't even all make sense or go together. So now we're in a position where we get a canon show and we have to decide what things happened and what things didn't actually happen, inside all of that shit that's been written. And more so than any other character, I think that they've done anything on, there is all this extra shit they can pull from if they want to, or they can make up their own story. Right. And so episode 1, going into it, yeah, super excited. I mean, like, there's so much you can do with it, and the character is so fucking cool no matter what you pick, really.
Right.
If I said in the sort of the original 3 Star Wars movies, does he have 20 minutes of total screen time?
6.5 minutes.
Is that right?
Yeah, I looked it up. 6.5 minutes and 4 lines. That's it.
I was going to set the over under at 20, and I would probably take it.
Yeah, 6.5 minutes, 4 lines. That is all he got in all the original shit. That's it.
Yeah, he is literally like an enigma wrapped in a phenomenon.
Right.
He is a character in Star Wars that got his very first appearance in a fucking like parade in Detroit somewhere with
like his first live appearance. Yeah.
Yeah, the first time anyone had ever seen him, he was marching down the street with Darth Vader, and he wasn't even he was the color that he was in the animated thing in the holiday special. He wasn't even this.
Yeah.
Color.
Yeah, that parade was prior to them doing the 78 holiday special, which they decided to include him as that cartoon, which was also a very different Boba Fett.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's how he got his start, and then he gets a palette swap for Empire Strikes Back, and he looks better, and he just his legend grew, which is kind of ironic because it's one of those like it's what you would want as a bounty hunter. Let your legend grow, even if it's not true.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened among the fans. Like he just became this iconic thing, and there was 6.5 minutes of him, but he became an iconic character because he looked so cool, and he was a bounty hunter. So I guess I don't know why I did that now I guess, but he was a bounty hunter.
It doesn't do much for Dog the Bounty Hunter, but
no.
That's what's so epically cool about him, though, is that we're going to have canon explanations of what happens. And again, John and I have the advantage of having seen the second one, and there's already things that get added. But anything that you've read before extended universe-wise, it could be true. We don't know. Yeah. We're going to see what they do, right? And that's exactly perfect, as John pointed out, for like a bounty hunter. Let your legend grow. I mean, well, what's true? We're going to find out. We don't know. But, it's a really cool way that they can develop this character. Yep. This, honestly, he could be, I'm going to regret saying this probably if I say it, but I'm just going to knock on wood or something. This could be better than the Mandalorian show.
Could be.
It could be.
It has potential, yeah.
Yeah. It definitely has the potential. All right. You know what? Fuck it. Let's just do the spoiler alert because we're going to ruin everything now. All right. So like we said, you have no idea what's been going on with this character as far as what's canon and what's not. When last we saw him, he was kicking Bib Fortuna's dead body off of the damn throne. This show opens up on Jabba's palace, but it's empty and desolate. And then once the camera pans through for a little while, it gets to a Bacta tank, and Fett is inside it. And it's the cool thing about this is I think this is the first time you really see what's going on with somebody inside the tank. Like he's starting to have dreams of his past, and really it was just like you saw Luke in the tank, and he was there for a little while, and then he opens up his eyes and he swims out or whatever. Right? This one is a little bit different. He's laying down, he's in this tank, and it starts to go into his memory. So you get flashbacks of what happened, and I mean immediately this thing cuts to the
I'd even start this isn't exactly in the episode, but like the episodes of The Mandalorian where we figure out that holy cow, that's Boba Fett, right? He doesn't have the armor. The Jawas have the armor, and so you almost start with like, okay, how do we go from the last time? Like, how does it get it all back? How does all of that stuff happen?
Right.
So you're set up in a place where like, okay, how are we going to get from the last time we saw him in Return of the Jedi to now in The Mandalorian?
Right. Yeah, because when he shows up, he's just in cloaks and he's got a gaffy stick, and then he winds up eventually siding with Mandalorian and getting his armor back from Mandalorian when he proves that it's his. And that's when we get to the current timeline. But yeah, the last time you saw him before that was he was falling into a Sarlacc pit, and they flash into all of that. They flash into him getting knocked into Jabba's barge, like an idiot, and falling into the pit, and then it cuts to him waking up inside the pit in the stomach acid, right, getting digested. And you know how they say it's going to be digested for thousands of years.
1,000 years, yeah.
Yeah. So he's in there and trying to get his way, trying to find a way out of there, and obviously he can't breathe or whatever. So he sees a stormtrooper wasting away inside of there, and someone had mentioned like, how the hell did the stormtrooper get there? And I was like, well, remember they're digested for years and years. He was probably one of the patrols from A New Hope,
right?
Or when they were looking for Luke, and he fell into the Sarlacc pit or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, clearly the stormtrooper had been in there longer too, because he has like holes eaten in his armor and stuff, whereas Boba Fett's armor is pretty much intact. So
yeah. So you can see where they follow the thread of this thing digests you very slowly. So he goes over and he rips out the oxygen hose from the stormtrooper and plugs it up into his own mask to get some fresh air, and he uses his blowtorch, right, to start fighting his way out.
Yeah, he like burns a hole in the side of it, I guess.
Yeah,
it's actually a little unclear, but I think that's what happened, because he ends up crawling out of the sand, maybe 10 meters away from the pit. Yeah.
So I think he went through, like you said, he went through the side of it with his blowtorch and then crawled his way through the sand until he finally got out. His hand breaks through the sand, he climbs out, and you can see he's only been in there for maybe a couple days tops.
It can't have been long because the Jabba sail barge wreckage is still in the background.
Still in the background, right.
If it had been months, if it had been months, the Jawas would have showed up already and cleaned it, right?
Which is leading right into the next spot, because he gets out and he passes out in the sand, and who shows up? The fucking Jawas. So they're on their way to see what wreckage they can get when they find him, and they strip him of his armor. Hence how Cobb Vanth finds it in his story in The Mandalorian, right? He buys it off of them. So they take the armor, and I think he tries to fight them for a second. They knock him out. So he is the greatest bounty hunter in the universe, gets knocked out by a Jawa. So that was great. If that doesn't hurt your fucking pride, I don't know what does. Uh, so yeah. So all right. Who wants to take it next? Tusken
Uh,
Raiders.
s- yeah, so after the Jawas leave him there, the Tuskens show up after some indeterminate amount of time, and pick up his body. And this was interesting because it was like it was very like Western, right? The way that they like tied him to the back of the bantha or whatever, and they're dragging him through the desert. And then when he gets tired and falls, they just
drag
drag. It totally reminded me of a Western, like dragging the guy on the back of a horse kind of thing. I thought it was it's really interesting how they sort of integrate those pieces, and more so in episode 2. And I don't want to spoil it. I'm going to keep saying that, but they also integrate some samurai stuff as they go forward. So it's pretty interesting. But so he ends up getting taken back to the Tusken camp. They're keeping as a prisoner for reasons I don't understand, actually. I kind of wish they would. Why the hell do they keep prisoners? Because when it comes down to it and we move forward in the timeline, there's no other people there but him. It's not like they kept the Rhodian prisoner or anybody else, right? So I don't know what
Yeah.
they're doing. But anyway, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Hopefully they'll explain something in there.
Well, I think it could be to dig for those things with the water in them. I mean, maybe they just have
Yeah,
They
prisoners
do make him do that. Yeah. It could be.
possible. So anyway, he's tied to a post by the campfire. He's eyeballing this the little alligator dog-looking creature. I think he realizes he can use it to escape, so he taunts the dog a little bit, pretending like he's trying to escape or whatever. And when the mastiff runs over to him, he grabs it, uses its teeth to cut his ropes, and puts it in like I don't know, fucking headlock or something. But there's an interesting thing here, because after the dog passes out or whatever the hell it is, maybe bonks in the head, I don't actually remember, but when it passes out, he actually rubs its head like it's a little puppy or something.
Yeah.
Like they're very much like I think already this far into the episode, and it's not long, trying to humanize him even more than they did in Mandalorian. Like, he's not necessarily a bad guy, just because he's a bounty hunter. He actually, he cares about this stupid little alligator dog thing. Give it a little pet in the head. It's fine. But so he uses that to cut the ropes. He's going to escape. There was also a Rhodian, because they love to have throwbacks and things in these shows, right? So they got to put a Rhodian in there. Why not? So the Rhodian, he's like, hey, I can help you escape too. And immediately the Rhodian starts screaming and rats him out that he's trying to escape. So he runs, the Tuskens chase him down, and he ends up facing off with their, I don't know, Prime Warrior or whatever it is, which seems laughable. And again, I don't want to spoil anything, but when you get into episode 2, you'll actually understand more of who that dude is. And so it doesn't really matter now, but so he gets in a face off with this warrior, ends up getting in a battle with a gaffy stick, basically, and loses big time, right? The warrior kicks his ass and he gets dragged back.
I gotta say, I'm kind of glad that they do have him get his ass kicked there, because I thought it's going to be sort of lame if he wins this fight. Like, he's been in the desert with no visible food or water for I don't know how long.
Right.
Skin burned.
He was just getting digested for a few days.
Right.
And scarred to all fuck, right? Like,
right.
He's not just dried out and messed up. Like, he's been injured somehow, some way. Maybe it was from the Sarlacc acid. I don't know, but like, he has scars across his face, his head, his chest. You'll see later. Yeah.
And I know that they want to make him, this really tough, right? We know, because he takes over, that he's the crime lord, and so you want to project this tough, but it would have been sort of unbelievable for him to have won that fight.
Yeah,
so I'm glad they show him get taken apart.
Yeah, me too. And in some ways, there's sort of an underlying hint here that Boba Fett, without sort of all his gadgets and armor, is maybe a cool dude and a good fighter, but he's not going to beat 10 people. Like, he's not even going to beat one Tusken warrior in this, right? Like, so he's learned to fight a particular way with a particular set of armament or whatever it is with him, right? And to a large degree, he's a badass, but he's not badass enough without all that extra stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so
I might be getting ahead of myself to say this, but like, he's like a, like a veteran on any sports team, right? Tom Brady doesn't beat you the same way at 44 the way he did at 24, right? So he fights a different way. He takes longer to recover. Still tough, right? But not the, unbeatable piece of steel, total badass.
Yeah.
And just a small segue here into something totally unrelated because Captain Tangent. But the person under that Tusken Warrior suit is actually a woman named Joanna Bennett, who is a stunt person that was the double for Amber Heard and Nicole Kidman in Aquaman, Gal Gadot in Wonder Woman, and the Justice League, Brie Larson in Captain Marvel and Avengers Endgame, and Wasp in Ant-Man and the Wasp. And Emily Van Camp in Civil War, Captain America. So really cool that they decided that. I mean, you could have put anybody in there, I guess. And to be frank, I wouldn't have known that was a woman unless I had read the credit stuff afterwards. But it's really cool that they've got somebody that's sort of like been through all these different Disney franchises, and they're still including. And there's more of that to come in this episode. So he loses the battle. They do a flashback back to the palace, right? So he's in the back to tank and wakes up at this point because this is an interesting thing that I think Star Wars has been doing since episode 7, 8, 9, which is that you don't actually have flashbacks, like not like proper flashbacks. You have memories or somebody thinking about something. There's not just like a sudden flashback with no reference point, So they did this thing with the Bacta tank and, oh, I'm dreaming, the dreams are back or whatever he says. It's interesting. I don't know if it makes any difference. I would have, I think, appreciated a flashback just as much in this context, but they've definitely got some sort of thing going where they're like, no, we can't just do a flashback. This has to be like a memory or a story somebody's telling, not just a cut.
Yeah.
So anyway, Finnick pulls him out of the Bacta tank. They do this very Robert Rodriguez thing, like Spy. Oh, what the hell is that? Spy Kids or whatever, where like he's donning all the armor and it's like close-up shots of him putting it on and stuff, which is actually kind of cool for the context anyway. And he's got that cleaned up armor now, right? It's been fixed for the most part. I don't think it was all clean, but so he's donning the whole armor and I think in the end of this episode, in the those artistic end credits, concept art stuff they do, he's putting the armor on himself. But in the actual show, in this part of the episode, he's got like droids helping him like put it all on or whatever. I don't know if it was too complicated to do or they decided to change it up because he's like the the whatever, the leader of the gangs or whatever. He's got help. I'm not sure what the intent of that was, but it's just something weird I noticed. So anyway, so she gets him out of the Bacta tank because delegates are coming to give him tribute. He's the new daimyo. Is that what they call it? Daimyo.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'm not nerd enough, but I didn't ever hear that.
Like the head mafia boss. Like
yeah.
But it's, it's a Japanese sort of shogun reference, right? It's the feudal lord that oversees the area, right? So
yeah, that's exactly right. So that's exactly what I was going to say. This is like 12th century Japan kind of feudal lord stuff, which I had never heard this term before. I don't remember seeing it elsewhere in Star Wars. Maybe it happened and I'm just not nerdy enough, but it is very much.
When it was Jabba, they just said he was a Hutt lord, and
so it is what it is. But they're yeah.
So it was, you just assumed he was a mobster. That was But
well, the only thing I was getting at was when I say they've done some Western and they've done some sort of Japanese samurai kind of thing, whatever. I mean that's how they integrate this down to the level of what name is he going to use, right? They're trying to throw it in kind of wherever they can, and then there's a lot more to come. So the delegates show up. I think of consequence. There's a Trandoshan that shows up, the lizard people looking guys. And his name was, at least in the credits, Doc Strassi, who brings him a Wookiee pelt, which two things here, because one, the voice of that Trandoshan is actually the director, Robert Rodriguez. So,
Mhm.
you always got to have a director cameo here and there. That's fine. But the other thing that's interesting is the Wookiee pelt. So, again, I didn't know this, and maybe I'm not nerdy enough, but killing a Wookiee is like some kind of big badass thing in the Star Wars universe. And I did not know this, but he has on the original Boba Fett outfit has like a Wookiee hair braid
Yeah.
as part of the
He's got braids of
costume.
Wookiee hair. The Wookiees that he's
Yeah,
killed.
yeah. So apparently this has some meaning. And again, I'm not going to spoil anything, but just watch episode 2. Um,
Hurry up, Paul. Jesus.
So the most important thing of this tribute scene is that the mayor of Mos Espa is supposed to show up to give him a tribute. He does not. He sends a delegate in his spot. The delegate says, the mayor sends his heartfelt welcome or some bullshit like that. And then they're like,
He's
okay,
basically doing like a power play with Boba
yeah,
Fett.
Yeah.
yeah, and they're kind of like, okay, that's horse shit, but whatever, fine. We send our heartfelt welcome back. Oh, one more thing, he wants you to pay him tribute. He's like, wait, what? And at that point, he's like, okay, no, that's not how this is gonna work. You tell him he owes us tribute, and your life is, our good grace. We're sending you back unmolested, I think is what Finnick says.
Well, you know what I loved about that is when he turned around to do the one more thing, because Fennec says, if you had spoken to Jabba like that, you'd have been fed to his menagerie, right?
Mhm.
When he turns back to tell him the mayor wants you to pay him tribute, he steps off of the trap door. he steps away from the trap door and then goes, one more thing. So it was like very like attention to detail about their characters. That was cool.
And so the last order of business in this is that there's 2 Gamorrean guards. Gamorrean? What the fuck is it? Doesn't matter. Gamorrean. I'm going to say Gamorrean. So 2 Gamorrean guards that they bring in, which I think Fennec wanted them to kill them. And definitely the AT-8 droid wanted him to kill them.
Torture him and kill him, yeah.
Yeah, so these 2 guards had apparently served Jabba before and served Bib Fortuna after he took over. And so the droid who is a torture droid, of course, is like, well, why don't you torture them instead? It'll show your power,
Right.
But he decides not to and says, hey, will you serve me like you served the Hutt, like you served Bib Fortuna? And they immediately kneel down. We're done. Yes, no problem. This part to me is interesting for a whole lot of reasons. The biggest one is, to date, the Gamorrean guards have been a joke to me. Like, they're fat, slow, giant pigs. Like, they're not beating anybody. They are not that.
But the ones, even the ones in the Mandalorian, were trimmer. You remember?
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
The ones in Return of the Jedi were definitely that fat. Even the figure was that fat little pig guy. Now they seem to have. It's almost like those couple of guards that tried to block Luke from coming in were like Jabba's lazy guards because Jabba was doing good and everybody was eating well, right? Now things have been a little bit different. Some of them are trimmed down. They're not all like that. And they show that here. These guys they don't have all the armor. They just have the little He-Man pelts around their waist, and they're a little more fit, a little more buff.
Yeah, and I mean, if you had any doubt at all about what these guys might be able to do, say in a future episode or something, even this one, when we get to it, but they didn't just pick anybody to go into those suits. I mean, one of the guys in this suit is former UFC fighter, and what the hell was that? TNA
Wrestling.
yeah, TNA wrestling star Frank Trigg. So to me, if you pick a guy like that who knows mixed martial arts and is very athletic, you're doing something with these guards, not just making them the fat guys at the edge of the thing, right? So I think that's been proven out, even in episode 1 to a small extent, more so maybe in episode 2, but they're definitely not going to treat them like nobodies. They're apparently some badass guards, even though they can only make pig grunt noises.
Yeah.
So they vow fealty to him, and we move on. So Fett, Shand, and the two guards then decide to head into Mos Espa. I think the intent of this is that they're going around to sort of meet the people in their empire, the businesses that they theoretically own, and sort of make their presence known. But yeah, exactly. And so as they're walking down well, I was going to say street, but as they're walking down the sand between the buildings, people are staring at them the whole way, right? And Finnick says to him, you know, the problem here is that you're not being carried around in a litter. And he immediately rejects it, like, no, I can walk on my own 2 feet. I'm not doing that. And she says something to him along the lines of, you know, it'd be a lot easier if you'd accept their ways, right? And so this harkens back to what I was talking about in the beginning with the Stranger in a Strange Land, that old 60s sci-fi novel. I mean, I think there's some elements that they're at least weaving into here, if not intentionally, but that he is trying to change the culture, right? We're not going to do it the way that the Hutts did it, right? And although I'm jumping ahead slightly, he does say later when he comes out, I'm going to rule with respect, not with fear. That's not what we're doing here, right?
Yeah,
So
Jabba rule with fear. I intend to rule with respect. Yeah, which is a good
yeah,
line, and he proves it repeatedly in this episode.
he does, yeah. So they did do a couple interesting shots here. One of them I heard several complaints about online. So if you guys remember those little four-legged dogs that were running around, it was a quick, you know, like 15-second side shot they did while they're walking. Little four-legged dogs with the yellow armor, whatever. Those are
Yeah.
actually the Boston Dynamics. Those are real robots that were built for like military purposes and stuff.
Yeah,
And they've included them in the show for reasons I'm not sure of. I think it's almost a plug of sorts, but more of a they're very technology focused, and probably the guys that work there like this show and like, yeah, great opportunity, let's do this, throw them in there. But a lot of people are bitching that it was breaking the immersion in the show because you have a real thing from our Earth, you know, like showing up in there. I don't actually get that. Like, if you really want to go to that level, like, yeah, there's a ton of shit we have in, you know, in real world that exists in Star Wars. It's not really that crazy. And robots are a perfect thing to integrate into this, right?
right. Like, there's droids running around this entire universe for everything, like
Yeah.
from the beginning. So
Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought that was great. But yeah, a lot of people were bitching about it breaking immersion. Like, whatever. Okay. I mean, have it your way. That's fine. If it broke it for you, I mean, to me, it was perfect. Like, throw robots in there, throw all kinds of robots in there. Shit, I don't care. You know, little stupid bomb sniffing robot things
Exactly.
are perfectly fine to throw in here. I mean, look at the Gonk droid, for Christ's sake. I mean, you can't go wrong with throwing any robot into this show. But anyway, so they run into a cantina. I'm trying to remember if the cantina had a name. It does have a name, but I can't remember what the hell it is off the top of my head because they say it in episode 2. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so they go into this cantina, which was clearly a Hut-owned establishment where they do gambling, and there must be some other sundry things happening in there. But they walk in. Interestingly, you know, he pulls his mask off right away, so he's not hiding. He's not hiding himself in this, right? He's
No.
not there as Boba Fett, the bounty hunter. He's there as Boba Fett, you know, and he's definitely not being the guy behind the mask that's sort of scary that way. So, so he pulls the mask off. Some slaves, I assume, or something along those lines, come up and ask if they can clean the helmets or something, and
Fennec says no.
yeah, Finnick says no, and he's like, you know, oh yeah, you know, you got to integrate into their culture or whatever, do the things
Yeah,
they
he
want to do.
repeats her line back to her. He says,
Yeah.
"Yeah, take them both." He says, "You know, it'd be easier if you accept their customs."
Yep. And a little more of those throwback Easter egg things. We get a look at the band in this cantina, and I'm not saying it's the same people or anything, but it looks remarkably similar to some of the band. Yeah.
Yeah, Max Rebo is there.
Max Rebo is there, and there's also one of the other aliens that's playing the wind instruments. Yeah, they are missing the drummer, notably. It's a robot in this case, but so maybe it's not the same guys. But where else have you seen a blue elephant?
Yeah,
Anywhere
and
in Star Wars?
Where else would he go after Jabba's palace, and Jabba dies, but to go get another gig. The guy's got to eat, right? He's a fat
Yeah.
little blue man on
There's,
Tatooine.
there's certainly not many. There's not many cities on Tatooine either, right? So.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh
there's
yeah,
three.
I almost forgot that. So this is definitely Mos Espa. I think that's fully established here. We've never got to see like
He says we're going to Mos Espa.
we never got to see like a wide angle view of it though, and it actually looks like it's maybe as big as some of the other places that we have seen. It looks really well established. It's very large, spread out. So it is definitely sort of a bustling city. I just thought it was interesting that they threw that in there, sort of again taking something that's not defined in canon and just here we go. This is actually a big ass city, got a lot of shit on it. Another interesting segue here. The song that they're playing, that band with the Max Rebo lookalike, it was actually credited as Cantina Latina, so it's like a Hispanic version of the original Cantina song. But the part of the reason that's interesting is it was done by Mark Del Castillo from Del Castillo, and then the director Robert Rodriguez has a band called Chingon. So those two guys did this mix up together of the Cantina song. Just something extra, right? So the proprietor of this place, Garza Whip, and that's the character that's played by Jennifer Beals, comes over to them. She greets them, pretty much seems to anyway, readily accept the fact that, he's the new daimyo and he's going to collect, his bounty for protecting the place or whatever. It's not bounty, a tribute for protecting the place or whatever. And she talks to them really very briefly, not a lot said there. And when they get their helmets handed back, Boba Fett's helmet is filled with coin.
Yeah.
And Fennec looks over at him and says, "Yours looks a lot shinier than mine."
Yeah.
Somebody else want to go?
That was kind of funny. So the other thing about Garza Whip is she reminds me of like when you watch these older mafia movies or older any kind of like when you go, it's like when Boba Fett walks into this club, right? He walks into the cantina. The owner, the proprietor, when it's a woman, she's always. This one comes off the same exact way. She's always like very flirtatious and like just enough like, whatever I can do for you. And, hang on. Sorry.
She's a little like if this was in a Western, she'd be like the madam of the hall.
The madam of the house. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly the trope they're playing to. And it works perfectly well here anyway.
Yeah. She's the very friendly madam of, with the heart of gold, right?
Yeah. And so it seems like she's sincere, to accepting his rule. But I thought it was funny that it was like very stereotypically in line with a lot of characters you've seen in other things like this, where she just flirts with him a little bit, she caresses his armor, and like anything you need, anything you want,
you own it. Yeah,
you own it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for her part it makes total sense too, right? She doesn't want any part in any bloodshed or fighting or what. She just wants to collect her money, and if I have to give 20% of it to some other person so that I don't have to deal with all the other bullshit, here you go.
Right.
You're gonna
come again.
Person getting the 20, sure.
Yeah. You're just as good as a hut, whatever. It's fine. So so they leave, and I know Eric doesn't like this part, but they get attacked by a group of assassins in the street. And
by the way, to keep the sort of Japanese, to keep the kind of the Japanese thing happening here, they kind of run down the walls like ninjas. Like this is like getting attacked, like right, the samurai and the feudal lord get attacked by ninjas.
Very much so. Even their attire looks ninja-like, and when these guys attack, though, they've all got energy shields, and they surround Fennec and Boba. And Eric, do you want to throw in why you thought this was stupid, or you want to wait until we get further along.
No. So I'll do it. So several things annoyed me about this scene. So Boba Fett is back in his fully clad armor on this thing. And granted, he's older now, fine. Maybe he's a little beat down. Fennec Shand is still a badass. She was a badass, even though Mandalorian, bested her, I guess. Well, Mandalorian didn't even best her. But
No, it was that bounty hunter
yeah.
kid.
Yeah, who tricked her, I guess. But anyway, she was a badass. She held the Mandalorian down. She knows what the fuck she's doing, and she can fight. And so I watched this scene. I understand these guys are assassins. Maybe this is some badass assassin crew or whatever. But I mean, I felt like you had so many options here. Like you could have just fucking jetpacked out of the circle. Like, come on. Like this is it. You're gonna let these guys beat your ass? Like, really?
You have a flamethrower, a missile launcher,
Yeah.
a number of other
What is he?
things.
He missile launches into a shield, gets blown back, and then basically gives up. Okay, now I have to hand fight them. And they have, they have fucking what the hell are those things called? Whatever. Those sticks with the shocky stuff.
Taser sticks.
Taser stick, right.
What are they called? I can't remember.
So I think it's one of a couple things. I think it's there's a kind of a Star Trek Next Generation trope where in order to demonstrate quickly how powerful the alien that comes on board the Enterprise is, the first thing he does is knock out Worf. Right.
Yeah.
And so that was the sort of the quick demonstration, like, oh, he's super tough. He knocked out the Klingon. So it's either to establish that they're kind of tough, that they can knock down Boba Fett, or it's then to also tell you how good Fennec Shand is when she does the parkour run and goes and chases down the last two, and he says alive, and
so
and she goes and gets him. And
yeah,
one that brings one back.
And I'll give you that. So from a establishing sort of roles perspective, like the way that they did it showed two things by the end of this. One, that Fennec Shand is very much a badass, maybe even more so than Fett, at least from a hand-to-hand combat. Yeah. And then the other thing was to say that the two Gamorrean guards that he spared are also badasses and will protect him.
Extremely well. When they come out of that club, when they realize what's going on, they come out of that club, they wreck shop.
Yeah.
They fuck people up. And so while he's on the ground, she goes after those last two who parkour their happy asses right back up to a roof.
Right.
I actually loved so from an action perspective, I loved the parkour-ish running across. I thought that was really fucking cool. And in fact, it made the fight scene look even more of like a bitch move, the way that they did the one in the set.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, come on.
Yeah. So when I love how when he stops her, she's halfway off the roof and she looks at him and he goes alive, and she pauses for a second and then goes after them. And when she finally catches up with the two of them, there's some more hand-to-hand combat with her and two of them, and she kicks their asses. And she's got one on his knees and one with his back to the edge of the roof. And she looks at the one with his back to the roof and kicks him off the roof. He said alive. He didn't say how many. She only needs one of them. So she's going to kill one of them. So I love that part. And she just looks at him and just kicks him.
So I
also wonder if that scene is going to, like, if he wants to rule with respect, you can't get jumped in the middle of the street, right? And so he's either going to have to retaliate against somebody when he figures out who does it. And I see by that laugh, that must happen in episode 2.
I can't tell you what happens in episode 2.
And so, right.
You know nothing?
You can't do that to the boss.
No.
You're not wrong. He's got a motive there. He will execute much like you'd assume.
So the Gamorrean guards pick him up and easily carry him through the street back to the palace and put him in the Bacta tank. I love how they just cut to that scene in that chamber and they just pulling the armor off of him real quick and dump him in the tank because they know got to heal the boss. You know, he's the guy that's going to keep us fed, so keep him alive. So they shove him back in there, and we go back to another flashback dream sequence with the Tuscans.
And this is the whole rest of the episode is now flashback,
Yeah. Mhm.
which again, I don't know if I said this already in the recording, but I know I said it before. Episode 2, it's long and it's mostly flashback. Like they are really putting a lot of effort into giving you the backstory they want you to have for Boba Fett. The guy that doesn't have a backstory in canon is getting one, and they're putting a lot of effort into showing you how he got here, what it means, who he is. All that's done through flashback.
Yeah, and, on that note, I think with all these flashbacks with the tank, because obviously the tank is slowly healing him over time until he gets to a point where he's not going to, I guess you always need it if you're fighting. It's a good thing to have it, right? But it's healing everything that's been bothering him for a while now. So he's going to get better and better. But I think by the end of the series, all these flashbacks are pretty much going to lead right up until you see him find Shand and see Mando, and then
I think they're gonna go. I think they're gonna go past that.
Well,
I
I'm
think
saying the flashbacks. I think
Oh yeah. Oh, the
that.
flashbacks. Yeah.
You're gonna, the last flashback you see is probably going to be when he finds Shand and when he gets with Mando to get his armor back. They'll probably tie a little bit of that into the last flashbacks, and that'll be the last of the flashbacks you need. But yeah, they're definitely walking you through how he got from Return of the Jedi to from Boba Fett, where Funk, to him approaching Mando. So you're getting there slowly but surely. So all right, who wants to go?
I'll do it. I haven't done one yet. So the flashback is continues to be him in this sort of prisoner status with the Tuscans. So now the kid, really, the youngling from earlier that he sees, he's on him. He's out with the kid. He's chained to the other prisoner. That is what'd you
Rodian.
say he was? Yeah, the Rodian.
Rodian. Yeah.
The one that's the species.
The one Han Solo did not shoot.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
First.
The one that Han did not shoot first.
A note about this kid too. Remember earlier in the episode when the two of them interact with each other, the kid tries to hit him, and Mando, Jesus, the other Mandalorian, Boba Fett, disarms him, and the kid's on the ground. He could kill the kid, and he doesn't.
Decides not to. Right.
The camera kind of holds on the kid's mask or whatever, watching Boba Fett, like realizing like, okay,
he kind of cowers.
Yeah, he cowers, but then he realizes like, all right, he's not going to kill me. There's something up with this guy, So you can kind of, even without saying anything or any kind of translation, you get it in the body language. So it's pretty cool. So then, so they're on a quest.
Yeah. You know what? Sorry to interrupt, but that's actually something worth note here, because in Mando, when he ran into the Tuscans, it was an immediate sort of like hand signal thing, got his way, move along. They have not approached it that way in this. There's very much like vocal stuff going on, and there is no sign language, there is no subtitles, but you still get sort of all the indications you're supposed to get as things are going along. They're going to compound on that in episode 2 a lot, but I mean, they're really doing it in a very interesting way where there isn't a spoken word, but you sort of get the gist of everything that's happening, and that actually takes a lot of work from the actors, from the writers, everything to put that out there like that. I kind of appreciate that.
Even though the Raiders have those masks, right, and their faces are covered, and it's almost like they are set in expressions, right? So it feels like their faces have expressions to them, and they maybe just set that way, and that's when you see them in the shot, you're meant to feel that expression of emotion, but it almost feels like that.
Yeah.
So they're with the kid. They're out on a journey to find water, and what they hide behind a rock because they see something happening. And what's happening is a gang is raiding a moisture farm, and the thing's smoking, and they end up spray painting some sort of symbol on the farm. You're not sure what it is, but it looks to be some sort of gang sign, which could be a precursor to what sort of comes in the rest of the episodes.
Yeah.
They don't engage, they just sort of move on. And the kids keeps making them dig for these, I don't know if they're plants, I don't know if they're pods, I don't know what they are, but they have some sort of water in them. And so the Rodian finds a whole bunch. As they continue to dig, Boba Fett uncovers this scale thing, like it's scaly. And so he moves some more sand off, and it's a sleeping, I don't know if this thing has a name. I've never seen it before. I don't know that it's in some sort of Star Wars lore that I'm not aware of.
I thought it was going to be a crate dragon.
Yeah.
You know, and then it wasn't. But there was a key there too, because he finds one of the pods and he starts to drink out of it, and the kid snatches it away from him, and he's like, "I need water. If you want me to find, I need water.
I need water." Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, "You want me to find more? I need water." And so the kid won't let him drink. You know, so that plays out later too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
In episode 2, they refer to those things as black melons.
Oh.
Not a term I've heard before, but
yeah.
Just for context. And also, I believe the creature is called Goro. I believe that's what, from Mortal Kombat.
Yeah,
Goro he's got
another cameo.
Yeah, he's got 2 sets of arms, almost like 2 sets of abs, and it's huge.
Yeah.
And so they are attacked, and it had because the Rodian and Boba Fett are linked together. It picks him up and then like punches the Rodian while it's hanging upside down, and just starts generally thrashing the 2 of them. Boba actually manages to kind of save the kid and get up on it, take the chain, wrap it around its neck, uses his arm as a sort of a lever, right, to tighten it, and ends up choking it out.
Yeah.
And then after that happens, the next scene is the kid comes back to the village with the head of that thing. And you
can clearly see he's holding it like a trophy.
Yeah. Yeah. And he starts to kind of go around to the village elders, and it's pretty clear he's telling them the story that, like, look, and it looks as if the kid's going to take credit for killing this thing, right?
Yeah, very much so. You can clearly see he's like trying to.
He's going around like
this thing, right?
Yeah.
And he's pointing and how he fought it and this and that, whatever. And he's got the head, and they're all like cheering him on and clapping him on the back, almost like it's one of those like tribal things where a kid has to make a kill.
Correct. He has to go out and do his rite of passage. And I don't recall the Rodian coming back, so he probably dies. I feel like it's just him and Boba Fett back at the village.
Yeah, it's just 2 of them walking back.
Yeah, and so Boba's in the background, kind of as the kids going, and all the adults are like patting the kid on the back and blah blah blah.
Yeah,
and you see the elder. Watching. You see what was made clear is the elder of this little village or troop or whatever they are.
Yeah, they have like a chieftain. Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of look at Boba Fett and just hand him the black melon thing he's got in his hand, and Boba drinks it, and it's clear the elder knows what was up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he looks at him, he looks back at the kid, and then he hands him the melon. So like basically, thank you.
Job. Yeah, thanks for protecting the kid.
Yeah.
And that's how the episode ends.
Yep. And since we're on spoiler alerts, I'm going to say one more thing, but they're going to expound upon that a lot in episode 2. The chieftain, sort of the indirect respect he gets from the raiders, what he's willing to do to help them, despite the fact that he's essentially their slave. There's a lot of that's gonna help with the character development as we go forward.
Yeah. So, all right. On to one of the biggest things I saw immediately after this episode came out. The internet exploded with how it was a complete and utter failure. I saw that in a headline. It was an utter failure, and how people were complaining that it was slow and this and that. And we talked right before we went on the air that, basically it's like our argument to their complaints would be, one, what the fuck were you expecting from a first episode of a series? Okay,
A
you have to set
34-minute
30,
episode.
yeah,
at that.
34-minute episode. You have to set up a story. Two, what they did with this episode was your questions were how in the hell did he get out of the Sarlacc pit, and what's been going on with him between then and when you see him in Mandalorian, and they answered that immediately. How the Jawas got his armor, all that shit. They answered that in the first 5 minutes of this fucking episode.
Could you imagine
Yeah.
if they didn't? Could you imagine?
Yeah.
the outcry
Yeah,
if they didn't?
exactly.
Like, why didn't you address how he got out of the Sarlacc pit? Like,
Yeah,
it's the
immediately.
greatest
Why didn't you do that?
in Star
I
Wars?
think-
Like, the number one question in Star Wars: how does Boba Fett get out of the Sarlacc pit?
If
Right.
we got nothing else out of that episode but an explanation of how he got out and how his armor landed on a Jawa crawler, I would have been happy.
Mhm.
But we got that less than 10 minutes into the episode, and then we got 20 more minutes of character development, establishing sort of the post-Hut environment. Like, they did it.
It
You
was
got it
much-
on both sides of it.
It was
Yeah.
a fast 30 minutes. Like, when it ended, I was like, that's it? Like,
Yeah.
already?
I mean, so if Star Wars fans can do anything, it's hate on Star Wars. So
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I expected anything significantly different, but I couldn't help myself with people saying that. I'm like, what the fuck did you want from this? I mean, we're one episode into a series
Yeah.
about a guy that got 6.5 minutes of screen time and 4 lines. Like, let it
Right.
fucking go. Watch the
Yeah,
fucking
he had more time in this one episode than he had in the entire fucking canon of Star Wars.
right?
So, apparently Star Wars fans are oscillating fans, they just no.
Well,
Right,
I will say after episode 7 and especially episode 8 and 9, I'll give them some credit that they should go into things, very much expecting to be disappointed. But come on. I mean, like,
Yeah.
you haven't even given it a shot.
Yeah. All right. So the whole thing that you're seeing him now kind of walk a line between good and bad after everything that happened with Mando. How do you guys feel about that part of the character development?
So personally, I love this, and they do it in so many different ways in this episode. So even at the very beginning, where you're seeing prequel movie flashbacks of Jango Fett getting killed, and like it's even like small shit, like Jango Fett gets his head cut off. Boba Fett, as a child, picks up the helmet. He's looking at it. Even in that one scene, it's like there's a shadow cast across him where it's like dark on one side and light on the other from the pillar that's behind him or whatever, right? And that is a precursor to everything that's going to come, because he is now walking this line of like good or bad. Yeah, I'm in charge of or I want to be in charge of a criminal empire, but also you see him with the Tuscans and he saves the kid and he pets the dog, and it's like, okay, he's not actually a bad guy. He's maybe in an environment that's unfamiliar to him in some ways, and in other ways he knows a lot about it, being a bounty hunter, right? And so he's trying to integrate himself into that and earn the respect and whatever else comes with it. But at the same time, he's not like a bad person. They don't make him out to be a bad person. He's actually a good guy, and he's just sort of dealing with the cards that are dealt to him, I guess is the way to put it.
Yeah, I think some of it probably happened after the experience in the Sarlacc pit. Like when he knew he was going to die, but he managed to find a way out of there. They did it not very similar, but close enough to what used to be now is extended universe shit. But they had a story of how he got out in the extended universe in like one of the short story compilation books. And they did kind of the same thing. It was like his time trying to get out of the Sarlacc pit kind of changed him a little bit, where he was a little bit gentler than he was before. So it could be some of that. It could also be that because none of that is really canon anymore, he might have put on the air of being this badass bounty hunter, but he still had that, not good side, but maybe he had a general respect for certain people. I don't know.
Well, I think that his 6.5 minutes of screen time in the Star Wars movies was all sort of associated with bad guys, right? He's either working with Vader, working with Jabba, doing those things. So I think you could have always assumed he was a bad guy, but 6.5 minutes, you actually have no idea, like the person under the thing. And the bounty hunters, even Mando starts out as sort of not a great guy, right? I mean, you just take jobs.
Indifferent, right? For sure, right?
Right.
You're doing it for money. So
right. You just take jobs and you go get somebody, and you don't, like, if you need this guy and you're gonna pay me to get him, I'm gonna go get him. And I don't sort of care why you need him or what it's for. And so you just go get him. And so he could very well have this, internal, he's still got principles and he's not a complete scumbag.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was looking
dogs
for.
and his kids. Yeah.
His principles, or whatever his guidelines are in his own head, are probably not as bad as people have thought in the past. But now you're learning that, so which is cool. I like it.
I mean, there's a code even among, right? I mean, every mob movie, right? The Sopranos and other stuff, like there's stuff that you won't do, right? They don't sell drugs to kids and do that sort of stuff, right? So at least all the ones in the movies.
Careful, don't quote The Godfather.
All the ones in the movies, right? Have that line they won't cross, and so he probably does too.
Yeah, exactly. So I really like this fine line he's walking on. It's cool. All right, so Eric's got a good one on here. Who or what might be the big bad in this series?
Let's let Paul go first since he hasn't watched episode 2.
Yeah. I wonder if this is going to be crime drama, sort of semi-mob genre of show. If there isn't some sort of 5 families or some other big kind of cartel organization, right? That, like, he's the upstart and the Corleone family and the whatevers are like, no, you're not coming into this territory. That's not happening.
Paul, Eric has no poker face whatsoever.
No, I'm doing that on purpose, but you could have just written episode 2.
Yeah. So I mean, that's right. If we're doing tropes, then we're going to take this crime drama thing to what happens.
Yeah. So I'm of course tainted by having watched episode 2, but I think even before seeing that, I think it was made pretty clear to us that this was going to be sort of a Godfather-like crime family sort of story. So they won't disappoint you in episode 2. That's what I'll say. That's at least a piece of what's coming.
Right.
And I don't want to say anything more than that, but
same, my taint enjoyed episode 2 too. Oh, you said tainted, sorry. All right. Again, another one that we really can't talk about.
Do you guys think could there be? I'm sorry, I'm going to try to drag this out just because I know some, but I don't know enough. Right, with 5 episodes left. But I mean, do you think there is anything else they'll introduce here as a bad? Perhaps a character from somewhere else in the Star Wars universe, another bounty hunter. I don't want to put ideas in your head, but something Mephisto, outside of the family stuff. Yeah, Mephisto. Yeah, exactly right.
Mephisto. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like when you make a reveal in episode 2 of a potential bad, that it's not the real story. I don't feel like it feels too early,
too soon
for that to be the end game. So
something else is gonna happen, but we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, we'll have to wait until next week to talk about episode 2, so Paul can hurry the fuck up. All right. Again, who are the assassins? We really can't answer that. We can't talk on it.
That is answered in episode 2.
About what's to come. We really can't talk about that.
They're the street guys of whoever the new cartel is, right? Whoever that is.
Yeah. The Shredder's Foot Clan. They showed up.
Yeah, that's right.
And then any ideas about what's to come? I think we already covered that. We're thinking it's basically going to be a
Yeah, I mean,
Mafia
I think ultimately as the outsider here that won't follow the sort of hut rules about crime lording, I mean, he's going to have a constant struggle internally and externally to prove, he's worth anything and that he can actually do this job. So I'm sure that's what's to come in some form or another.
Yep, I think. All right, so I think that's everything we got here. Last minute, are we all happy with this so far?
Yeah, I'm super excited. I'm more excited after seeing episode 2, but I was excited after 1. I sorry to spoil it for everybody, but
Yeah, we're gonna shut off the
Okay.
recording if Eric says anything else. Yeah, all right, Paul. Yeah, you nodding your head. So.
Yeah, super excited, and glad that we finally know the backstory now of how he gets out of the Sarlacc pit, what happens to him between that time and catching up with Mando, getting the armor back, all that, and excited to see sort of more of that stuff, right? Deeper into the flashbacks that you guys are alluding to. So,
all right, sweet. Well, join us next week for episode 2, and that's it. So, let us know what you think of episode 1 of the Book of Boba Fett, and like, subscribe, ring a bell, leave some comments down below, and we'll look for them and answer them if we remember, because we're old. Hit us up at whatifgeeks.com, whatifgeeks@gmail.com, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Jeez, the holidays got me rusty, huh? And yeah, that's it. Send us a hologram or something from Star Wars, a little holo droid. We will see you next week. Good night, Tony.
good night, Max Rebo.
Good night, Rodian, buried in the sand by Goro.
Forever.
Forever.
I saw that one coming.